Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and that will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om al ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikalela lezwe letu na bantu balo, umusile ukulungu kwepondo letu, mkosi sikalela i Afrika, kina abantwana bayo, kokela inkokeli zayo, yaniki upolo i Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Please be seated. Order. Good morning, honourable members, and to the guests in the gallery and our guests in the speaker's box. Welcome to the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. Before I proceed, I would like to remind or make some comments about the logistical arrangements, honourable members. Today's sitting shall be governed by the standing rules, and in instances where the rules cannot be applied, the ruling by the presiding officer is final. Honourable members, the quorum requirements for the sitting of the House are as provided for in the Constitution and the standing rules. The Sergeant at Arms will be recording members' attendance. Members who are present in the chamber and via Microsoft Teams have all the privileges and immunities imparted by law. Honourable members, unless there's an indication of a unanimous concurrence, voting will be confined to members present in the House and who are entitled to cast their votes in accordance with our standing rules. Members who are considered to be out of order by the presiding officer will have their microphones muted and called to order. When an honourable member wishes to raise a point of order, such an honourable member may address the presiding officer as normal, but must mute his or her microphone when he or she has completed speaking. The honourable members are kindly requested to ensure that their microphones are unmuted when they are recognised by the presiding officer and to mute their microphones when they have finished speaking. Honourable guests in the gallery, I kindly request that for those who are not members of the House, to observe the decorum of the House. And for the purposes of the sitting, language interpreting services are available by using the devices at your disposal. Honourable members, I wish to remind you that no interjections are permitted during these hybrid sittings, and to this end, I wish to draw your attention to Rule 40 of our standing rules. The Secretary and her administration will ensure that there is dedicated technical support at all times during the sitting. Honourable members, we will now proceed to the business of the House. I recognise the Chief Whip.
Good morning and thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I move in my name that notwithstanding the provisions of Rule 18, the hours of sittings on Thursday, the 12th of March 2026, Monday, the 23rd of March 2026, and Tuesday, the 24th of March 2026 shall be from 10 a.m. until adjournment. I so move.
Thank you very much, Chief Whip. Honourable members, are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Introduction and first reading, Western Cape Appropriation Bill, B1 2026.
Thank you very much. I now recognise the Honourable Minister of Finance, Minister Bartman.
Speaker, Deputy Speaker, Honourable Premier Alan Winde, Honourable Minister of Finance, Mr. Enoch Godongwana, to the SARS Commissioner who will be joining us. He's a little bit late for his meeting. Mr. Kieswetter will be joining us. Honourable members of the Executive, Leader of the Opposition, Honourable members of the Consular Corps, Captains of Industry, special guests, especially those in Mitchell's Plain, I'm informed that are here today, as well as from the Deaf SA community, residents of the Western Cape. Speaker, last year we committed to stepping up for the people of our province. 7 months later, we recognized that maintaining our footing was only the baseline and that we had to scale our efforts and build real momentum. Today, we define that forward motion. Growth that is deliberate, disciplined, and sustained. As a world-class agricultural region, We understand organic growth better than most. We know that a vine left entirely to its own devices grows wild. It spread its energy across too many leaves and sprawling branches, ultimately yielding a bitter and unusable harvest. And to secure a yield that actually sustains the entire estate, a viticulturist must apply two essential forces: the shears of discipline and the hands of care. Discipline is the hard, necessary work of winter pruning. It is the act of cutting back excess and withdrawing from unproductive growth so that the plant's limited energy is concentrated into the branches that bear fruit. It requires making difficult, sometimes unpopular choices in the present to guarantee viability in the future. But discipline alone produces nothing if the roots are starved. Care is the soil we tend, the water we preserve, and the windbreak we construct against this frost. A vine cut back to the wood will perish if abandoned to the elements, and without care, even the most strictly managed estate will wither. Speaker, this budget is our harvest plan. We face an undeniably volatile global reality that presents us with a complex mix of risks and opportunities. We cannot control international markets nor how it impacts our economy or even national fiscus. We can, however, control how we cultivate our own estate. A society that feels supported and valued is the soil from which prosperity grows. To prosper, we therefore must mimic that wisdom of a farmer. Today, the Western Cape government is not forced to choose between fiscal responsibility and social duty. Today, we will prove that the one enables the other. We will deliver growth with discipline and with care. Speaker, the world has settled into a cautious rhythm. Global growth is uneven, marked by small pockets of resilience sitting alongside clear structural weaknesses. Developed economies are moving in different directions. Some continue to hold steady while others are losing momentum. Emerging markets reflect the same divergence. Across the board, tighter global financing conditions and rapidly shifting trade patterns continue to shape the outlook. Trade flows are under strain. Value chains that once moved smoothly across borders are becoming more fragmented as countries raise barriers, tighten rules, and push for greater self-reliance in critical goods. This realignment brings challenges and opportunities, higher costs for certain input, but also demand for reliable suppliers who can deliver consistently. For an open, export-orientated province like the Western Cape, these shifts test our ability to keep produce moving, sustain tourism arrivals, and maintain investment pipelines. Global inflation has eased from its peaks, but the pressure has not disappeared. Food prices, energy costs, and supply chain disruptions continue to flare where weather shocks or logistical constraints take hold. Speaker, South Africa recorded economic growth of 1.1% in 2025, with forecasts of 1.4% in 2026. While this improves on the past decade's average of 0.7%, the economy remains constrained. Confidence has improved under the government of national unity with a sovereign credit rating upgrade, the exit from the FTAF grey list, and a firmer rand. Yet unemployment remains above 31%. So structural reforms in electricity, logistics, and water are also progressing and will be essential to unlocking stronger growth. Electricity availability, Speaker, has improved sharply, supported by a surge of private investments in renewables. Port and rail systems are beginning to open to private partners, and long-delayed water infrastructure is receiving focus. Speaker, as the national economy asks provinces to work harder with less room for error, the Western Cape enters this period on firmer footing, but not with any sense of complacency. Our economy is broad, productive, and resilient, giving us the space to support real organic growth. Our outlook shows that strength. The provincial economy is thus set to grow by 1.6% in 2025. It is still below what our residents deserve, but it outpaces our national outlook and shows that our province is generating momentum. Speaker, the clearest test of that momentum is jobs. In the fourth quarter of 2025, unemployment in the Western Cape was 18.1%, well below the national average. Our province delivered 28.1% of all new jobs in the country, putting the Premier's new target of 10% unemployment firmly within reach. We remain realistic about risk. As an open, export-orientated economy, we are exposed to global trade fragmentation and rising protectionism. When external market shifts, our competitiveness will feel it. We are equally honest about the sectors under pressure. Electricity, logistics, and water constraints continue to hold us back. Manufacturing and construction sectors are affected. These sectors absorb semi-skilled and lower-skilled workers and shape where the firms grow, whether the goods can move on time, and whether families can participate in economic life. The budget thus meets our provincial economy with both realism and resolve. And we are speaking to a province with real momentum, strengths, and confronted by real pressure points. We will therefore scale what is working, confront what is not, and protect the conditions that allow discipline and care to translate into long-term prosperity and growth. Today, Speaker, the Western Cape Government tables a 285.8 billion rand budget for the 2026 MTEF period. 93.538 billion rand in 2026-27, 94.770 billion rand in 2027-28, and 97.506 billion rand in 2028-29. Our budget consists of 95% of national transfers, specifically through the provincial equitable share and conditional grants, with the remaining 5% generated from provincial own revenue, such as motor vehicle license fees and gambling taxes. Speaker, in terms of the vertical division of the distribution of nationally raised revenue, provinces will receive 42.3% over the medium term. In line with the provincial equitable share formula, the Western Cape receives 217.583 billion rand in equitable share for the MTEF. The equitable share portion for the Western Cape increases by 4.78% from 2025-26 to the 2026-27 financial year. The increase is made up of both data updates and additional allocations flowing through our equitable share. We welcome the updates to the PAYS formula. It now reflects the latest mid-year population estimates, school enrollment data, total fertility rate, premature mortality, patient load data, income and expenditure survey, and GDPR statistics. The 2025 mid-year population estimates confirm that the Western Cape remains the third largest province in South Africa. And for the first time, the economic component includes the adoption of new methodology by Statistics South Africa, measuring regional GDP. The poverty component has been updated using the 2022-23 income and expenditure survey, the first refresh since the 2010-11 survey. The updates confirm a shift in poverty from more rural provinces to more urban provinces as populations shift in search of work. These updates increase the Western Cape share of the PAYS formula from 10.3% over the 2025 MTEF to 10.4% over the 2026 MTEF, resulting in an additional 1.204 billion rand over the 2026 MTEF for the Western Cape. Speaker, additional allocations of 2.798 billion rand will flow through the provincial equitable share formula from our national government, which will be earmarked to the respective departments, consisting of a reduction of 566.498 million rand due to the inflation adjustment reflecting the lower inflation outlook. An additional allocation of 1.035 billion rand for education for compensation of employees, an additional allocation of 2.225 billion rand for health for compensation of employees, the employment of doctors and shortfalls in goods and services, an additional allocation of 55.289 million rand for the progressive equalization of the remuneration of grade R teachers, an additional allocation of 19.357 million rand for early retirement and voluntary exit programs, and an additional 30.232 million rand for teacher assistance under the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program. Our pays will increase from 10.39 to 10.45% of the total provincial portion nationally over the 2026 MTEF, averaging 10.42% over the 2026 MTEF. Speaker, beyond the data updates and additional allocations, we welcome National Treasury's decision to review the composition of the PAYS formula. When we compare real PAYS per capita, cumulative population growth, real PAYS cumulative growth, and real PAYS growth from 2026-17 to 2028-29, the gap keeps widening. The real PAYS per capita is declining. Combined with the increasing cumulative population growth experienced in our province, it is culminating in the erosion of per capita fiscal capacity. As provinces, we need to seriously consider the incorporation of forecasted population growth and forecasted economic growth within the PAYS formula so that we can shift from reacting to historical data to preparing for a future based on clear evidence. Therefore, there is a need to explore the notion of a formula that can anticipate changes in demographics, becoming more proactive in dealing with the needs of our residents. Over the 2026 MTEF, the Western Cape will receive approximately 50.482 billion rand in conditional grant allocations. These will reflect an increase of 60.813 million rand for the education infrastructure grant, an increase of 1.284 billion rand for early childhood development grant, increase in 279.631 million rand for health facility revitalization grant, increase in 713.503 million rand for the provincial roads maintenance grant. There will be a reduction of 397.818 million rand for the human settlements development grant, which will shift to the informal settlements upgrading partnership grant for provinces. We will thus see an increase in 349.896 million rand for the human settlements informal settlements upgrading partnership grant for provinces. There will be a reduction of 209.711 million in the Letsema projects grant, which will merge into the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program grant to streamline and enhance support for emerging farmers. And thus we also see an increase of 192.422 million rand for the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program grant and an increase of 43.488 million rand for the EPWP integrated grant for provinces. Over the MTEF, our conditional grant allocations from various departments decreased marginally by 0.92% from 2025-26 to the 2026-27 financial year. Speaker, furthermore, our budget facility for infrastructure funding for the 2026 MTEF, consisting of an additional allocation of 883.163 million rand for health, will flow through conditional grants. For the Metro East Hospital, previously known as the Belhar Regional Hospital, will be receiving 106.658 million rand over the 2026-27 and 2027-28 financial years. For the Metro West Hospital, previously known as Klipfontein Regional Hospital, we are receiving 111.505 million rand over the 2026-27 and 2027-28 financial years. And for Tygerberg Health Technology, we are receiving 665 million rand over the 2027-28 and 2028-29 financial years. Across all votes, Speaker, provincial departmental own receipts are projected to total 2.295 billion rand over the 2026 MTEF, representing a 0.51% decrease from the 2025-26 financial year. Our departments of health and wellness and infrastructure collectively account for 80.9% of total earned receipts and are projected to raise 596.74 million rand in 2026-27. Speaker, turning to provincial tax receipts, collectively, motor vehicle license fees, gambling taxes, and liquor license fees raised 3.757 billion rand in the 2025-26 financial year and are projected to generate 12.528 billion rand over the 2026 MTEF, constituting a 4.5% increase from the 2025 MTEF, driven mainly by inflation. Speaker, later today, our government will also introduce the 20th Gambling Amendment Bill, aimed at accounting for the difference between original casino bid fees and the new economic advantage casinos would gain by choosing to relocate. And over the MTEF, we will review our provincial gambling legislation in full in order to keep up with the industry. Speaker, having outlined our funding sources and the total amount we will appropriate over the 2026 MTEF, you will see a deficit between expenditure and revenue. This deficit will be financed from accumulated reserves, mainly the Asset Finance Reserve and the Provincial Revenue Fund. To address key spending priorities and pressures, the Western Cape government is adding 5.955 billion rand in provincial funding to our MTEF. Speaker, approximately 18 months ago, we warned this House about the rising frequency of disasters and the need for our province to budget for a rainy day. That day has arrived. We are now drawing down reserves as a deliberate decision to act swiftly in responding to disasters. This also means that when we table the adjustment budget later this year, our first task will be to begin replenishing those reserves so we can prepare for future shocks with the same foresight, the same discipline, and the same care. In total, we are making provisions for 2.842 billion rand in reserves over the 2026 MTEF, of which we will have set aside 1.346 billion rand for our unforeseen and unavoidable reserve, 707.503 million rand for our stabilization reserve, and 269.18 million rand for acquisition of property reserve to deal with the impacts of climate impacts, protect essential services in the face of national fiscal constraints, and support infrastructure as projects accelerate. Speaker, a herd reflects the discipline of the farmer who tends it. Good farmers do not lose discipline in good seasons. They prepare for the seasons that will surely come. In that spirit, I wish to announce that in line with long-term planning, the Western Cape government has approved the establishment of the Alternative and Blended Financing Reserve aligned with our 2025 policy framework and funded in part through over-collection on motor vehicle license fees. This 518.814 million rand reserve will be dedicated exclusively to servicing borrowings for infrastructure and related projects, strengthening capacity to manage strategic development, reinforce fiscal resilience, and help scale our infrastructure portfolio. So just as a farmer must balance the growth of the herd with the health of the pasture, government must balance growth with discipline and care. Continuing this values as a government, the Western Cape acted swiftly during the 2026 budget process to respond to emergencies and disasters affecting our communities. We are drawing down from our unforeseen and unavoidable reserve alongside existing departmental budgets over the MTEF to support and scale our disaster response and strengthen resilience across our province. The 2026 budget will thus respond with 949.8 million rand in provincial funding for unforeseen and unavoidable events. This includes 177.942 million rand for water resilience and drought response, including groundwater augmentation, bulk raw water supply and alien vegetation removal, 452.529 million rand for energy resilience, including solar installations for schools, clinics, emergency services, and farm worker homes, 139.7 million rand to combat foot and mouth disease, for vaccines and scaling our veterinary capacity to protect our dairy and meat industries. 67 million rand to address fire damage at Paarl Hospital, 65.530 million rand allocated for integrated fire management, firefighting and aerial support, and 47.139 million rand to combat gender-based violence. Speaker, genuine growth is not declared. It must be cultivated. It takes root when barriers are pruned, foundations are strengthened, and the conditions for enterprise and employment deliberately tendered. And that must be the work of this budget. That is why growth and jobs remain our apex priority. We allocate 36.651 billion rand over the 2026 MTEF to drive our growth and jobs priority, of which we're adding an additional 1.496 billion rand in provincial funding into the MTEF. Private capital invests where confidence is strong. In 2024-25, the Department of Economic Development and Tourism, as well as Wesgro, facilitated 14 investment projects worth about 14 billion rand, with more than 11,000 projected jobs. To maintain that momentum, Wesgro receives 396.877 million rand over the MTEF to promote investment, tourism, export growth, and trade. Speaker, we will be strengthening our industrial hubs. The Freeport Saldanha will receive 31.8 million rand in 2026-27 as it expands as a green hydrogen maritime and manufacturing center, and the Atlanta Special Economic Zone receives 129.432 million rand over the medium term as it grows its green tech manufacturing footprint. Our 2025 Western Cape Investment Summit secured 6 major investment commitments valued at 50 billion rand, which is expected to generate 45,000 job opportunities over the next 2 decades. Projects showcased at the summit form part of a 400 billion rand investment pipeline. We will thus provide an additional 6.196 million rand over the MTEF to DDAT to support the continuation of this initiative. Further, DDAT receives an additional allocation of 3.098 million rand over the MTEF for the implementation of its growth opportunity coalitions, strengthening sector-specific growth opportunities that support business expansion and job creation in priority sectors such as food and beverage, clothing and textiles and manufacturing. Speaker, in order to accelerate export growth and expand market access, we will invest in scaling our support for the agriculture, tourism, and logistics sectors. Our Department of Agriculture will receive an additional 16.5 million rand for Africa market activations, an additional 12 million rand for our export certification online system, and an additional 15.49 million rand for mobile abattoirs to advance market access to agri-processing in the informal economy. In addition, we will scale nearly every single one of our agriculture programs, consisting of an additional 13 million rand for our agriculture producer support program, additional 15.531 million rand for agricultural producer support and development program. As mentioned earlier, 39.661 million rand will go to our veterinary services program, and as well the 100 million rand for vaccines to combat foot and mouth disease. The additional 15.4 million rand for our research and technology development services program, and an additional 18.5 million rand for our agricultural education and training program. Our Department of Economic Development and Tourism will receive an additional 17.843 million rand for our Export Accelerator program, an additional 9.708 million rand for port and logistics performance support, an additional 3 million rand for tourism safety, and an additional 12.392 million rand for our tourism growth initiatives to strengthen destination quality and attract private investment. And supporting a flourishing economy in the events economy, we will allocate the Department of Cultural Affairs an additional 31.326 million rand for hallmark and incubator events and 15 million rand for the World Cup legacy infrastructure upgrades for the 2027 ICC Cricket World Cup to ensure tournament readiness. To do that, Speaker, we must secure the basics. Reliable power and water security is critical. Our energy resilience program receives 452.529 million rand over the MTEF, supporting capacity, alternative energy procurement mechanisms, energy sector opportunities, solar PV installations for schools, clinics, EMS services, and farm worker homes, industrial decarbonization, grid and transmission infrastructure upgrade planning, project preparation facility, green hydrogen, and support for municipalities. We will further allocate 177.942 million rand for water resilience and drought response over the MTEF, supporting BFI program preparation for ecological infrastructure, nature-based solutions for water quality improvement, clearing invasive alien vegetation, municipal borehole support and potable water tanks for drought relief, augmenting water security, bulk raw water security and resilience, and fabricated balancing reservoir. We will build further a stronger technology ecosystem and boost innovation. The Department of Economic Development and Tourism receives an additional 9.294 million rand to establish drones unmanned aerial vehicles regulatory sandbox. And Speaker, growth will depend on how efficiently we move our goods and people. The George Integrated Public Transport Network will receive 329.197 million rand, of which an additional 50 million rand is allocated in the 2026-27 financial year. And the integrated transport system receives 366.653 million rand for freight reform. To lower the cost of seeking work, the Department of Mobility's Job Seeker Travel Program receives an additional allocation of 5.08 million rand for the Cape Town and George areas. And supporting both our G4J and safety priorities, our Department of Mobility receives 80 million rand for 2 heavy-duty mobile diagnostic scanners to curb the movement of illegal firearms, drugs, animals, and human trafficking. I'm going to repeat that when the SARS Commissioner arrives. Speaker, infrastructure remains a major driver of growth. The Western Cape will spend 31.1 billion rand over 3 years on infrastructure. Over the MTEF, we allocate 11.109 billion rand to road construction and maintenance, 5.557 billion rand for human settlements, 2.691 billion rand for public works, 5.199 billion rand for health infrastructure and non-infrastructure related interventions such as the health technology, 6.437 billion rand for education infrastructure, and 136.730 million rand for ecological infrastructure. Speaker, while businesses create jobs, we need to ensure our residents are able to get those jobs. This is why we will strengthen and scale improved access to employability and economic opportunities. We will allocate an additional 3.098 million rand over the MTEF to DDAT to support a new employment and enterprise development outcomes fund that will leverage public, private, and donor capital to finance youth employment and enterprise development initiatives with funding linked directly to verified job creation results. DDAT receives 122.294 million rand over the MTEF for skills development in the BPO and technology sectors and 250.567 million rand for its skills development program. Our Department of Infrastructure will spend 255.232 million rand on its community-based programs like the Masakisizwe Bursary Program, apologies for the pronunciation, the Professional Development Program, and its Contractor Development Program. The Year Beyond program will continue creating pathways for more than 3,000 young people currently outside of employment, education, and training. 9 million rand is allocated to the Year Beyond 1,000 Stories Libraries program, while an additional 15.764 million rand is added to expand the Year Beyond initiative. Speaker, supporting our safety policy priority, we will allocate 8.595 billion rand for safety in the 2026 MTIF. We will invest 373.747 million rand over the MTIF in care and services to families through the Department of Social Development. This will strengthen parenting support, family therapy, reunification services, and violence prevention programs. We will allocate 396.093 million rand for substance abuse disorder prevention and treatment, focusing on prevention, early intervention for about 4,000 service users a year and residential treatment. Our Department of Social Development receives 1.223 billion rand over the MTIF supporting adults and children in conflict with the law, including the completion of diversion programs. We will scale the Planet Youth model, which applies a public health approach to reducing trauma. And in 2024-25, it gathered data from nearly 49,000 learners to guide evidence-based interventions. We will thus invest 106.443 million rand to expand this work through area-based teams and the Cardiff Public Health model. And Speaker, as mentioned earlier, gender-based violence and femicide had been declared a national disaster, and it demands a whole of society response. So to support our GBV implementation plan in our province, we allocate 47.139 million rand over the MTIF to advance this work, reducing violence, restoring dignity to survivors, and building safer, more resilient communities across our province. Supporting a whole of society approach to building safe and secure communities, we will allocate 169.376 million rand over the MTIF to neighborhood watches and community policing safety forums. We will allocate a further 20.961 million rand to our street coaches and safety observatory and 18.588 million rand to our community resilience program. Through our Western Cape Liquor Authority, we must continue balancing economic opportunity with public health to reduce alcohol-related harm. And in 2024-25, the authority achieved full inspection coverage of licensed premises and recorded a 53% drop in fines, reflecting improved compliance. Over the MTIF, 245.307 million rand will support the rollout of the differentiated pricing model. Amendments to the Liquor Act will strengthen public health outcomes, and e-portal would improve regulatory access, and ongoing enforcement and public education would be for reducing alcohol-related harm while supporting responsible trading. Speaker, we remain committed to reducing murders in our province. In the precincts where the Law Enforcement Advancement Program officers were deployed, we have seen a sustained decline. In 2024-25, we maintained a deployment of more than 1,000 LEAP officers in 6 high-violence precincts, where homicides declined by 1.5%, compared with a provincial reduction of 0.8%. We will maintain LEAP with a 1.14 billion rand over the 2026 MTIF, which will include extending support to 25 municipalities. We will allocate 6 million rand for our anti-gang hub and roll out a SAPS detective capacity pilot, which aims to strengthen case detection, analysis, and gang-related investigations. In 2024-25, our Western Cape Police Ombudsman processed 366 complaints, and the Court Watching Brief program continued monitoring murder and GBV cases. A total of 54.231 million rand is provided in the 2026 MTIF baseline to implement the capability maturity matrix to assess station-level performance. Over the MTIF, we will allocate 208.643 billion rand to the educated, healthy, and caring society priority, of which we are adding an additional 3.719 billion rand in provincial funding for the MTIF. This means the protection of the frontline services that shape a person's future long before they ever enter the labor market. In education, our spending will rise from 32.738 billion rand in 2025-26 to 35.108 billion rand in 2026-27, with an additional allocation included of 1.034 billion rand. We will strengthen our system by funding 701 new educator posts in 2026-27, amounting to 799 million rand, and we will invest 330 million rand in education infrastructure with priority given to the replacement and refurbishment of schools built with inappropriate or hazardous materials. Our full education infrastructure budget, including the Rapid Build program, as mentioned earlier, will total 6.437 billion rand over the MTEF. Supporting the EHACS priority, as we call it colloquially, the DCAS department receives an additional 93.921 million rand because we must ensure that education does not end when the school bells ring. The Department of Cultural Affairs and Sports mod program supporting after-school sports, art and culture activities will have received 234.504 million rand over the MTEF, scaled with 15.8 million rand for expansion. Our Western Cape Library Services will receive 1.327 billion rand allocation over the MTEF, and we will further reprioritize 130 million rand towards the implementation of our school sport strategy. Speaker, a caring society is also a healthy society. So supporting the EHACS priority, the Department of Health and Wellness received an additional 2.305 billion rand, of which 2.225 billion rand is allocated to stabilize the system through compensation of employees and goods and services. And our health infrastructure and non-infrastructure portfolio will amount to 5.199 billion rand over the MTEF, inclusive of our BFI funding. Speaker, social development remains under heavy strain, and this budget targets the areas under the most pressure. Over the 2026 MTEF, the department receives an additional 285.168 million rand. To support vulnerable young people, 31.216 million rand is allocated towards designated child protection organizations and 94.9 million rand to non-designated NPOs. We are also allocating 15.5 million rand to fund additional CYCC bed spaces for children with disabilities, and 9.5 million rand is allocated to support young adults leaving alternative care through independent living and transition services. Additionally, 878.709 million rand is allocated to child care and protection services and 475.419 million rand to child and youth care centers. We are tightening the oversight, will improve reunification services, and expand support for children with disabilities. Speaker, ons ouer mensies verdien soortgelyke beskerming. Residents like Natalie Kotze from Parow Valley have raised the need for more affordable old age homes and care services, especially for seniors relying solely on a SASSA grant. This budget allocates an additional 36 million rand over the medium term to support older persons live with more fulfilled and dignified lives. This includes independent and assisted living, frail care, community-based services, and a stronger wellness orientation within the health system. We will also finally, in order to capacitate the social services sector, will receive an additional 22.827 million rand allocated to fund 32 additional social work posts and additional 6 million rand for upgrades to the SWIM system. This is discipline and care in practice. We must protect core services in a tight fiscal space and keep people at the center so that our province remains resilient, capable, and humane. Speaker, the quiet work of planting, tending, and harvesting has become a powerful instrument of dignity. So we cannot grow an economy when our people are suffering from hunger. Supporting nutrition and the whole of province commitment towards food security of the MTEF, our Department of Agriculture has allocated 64.41 million rand supporting household and school food gardens. The Department of Social Development prioritizes 12.256 million rand for provision of nutritious meals, a further 56.736 million rand allocated to food distribution centers and community nutrition development programs, and 81.413 million rand for food relief under social distress interventions. The Department of Education will spend 1.771 billion rand over the MTEF, providing daily nutritious meals to learners in schools, with an additional 219.014 million rand over the MTEF to address food inflation pressures through the National School Nutrition Program. And the Department of Health and Wellness, through its Kolisa Care Program, will support underweight pregnant women and mothers of low birth weight babies with nutritious food vouchers and community health care to prevent child stunting and give children a healthy start in life. Speaker, we need to build an agile, innovative government that improves service delivery. We will thus spend 31.924 billion rand on our innovation, culture and governance priority, of which we are adding additional 280.864 million rand to the MTEF. Speaker Chanel Samuels from Ceres asked for increased funding for the Western Cape e-centers to expand access to digital services across communities. Over the MTEF, we will allocate 4.268 billion rand for information and communication technology, including an additional 6 million rand for e-kiosks for digital services and an additional 21.5 million rand for mobile e-centers. We will accelerate digital transformation by strengthening broadband and ICT infrastructure at more than 2,000 Western Cape government sites and by expanding public Wi-Fi and digital hubs in vulnerable communities. We'll implement the Western Cape Government Artificial Intelligence Strategy and Governance Framework, strengthen cloud and data platforms, enhance cybersecurity, and build a shared digital ecosystem that improves service delivery and ensures better value from ICT spending. We will institutionalize alternative and blended finance as a key tool to expand fiscal space and unlock catalytic infrastructure. As alluded to earlier, 518.814 million rand has been set aside in the ABF reserve to enable responsible borrowing for infrastructure and finance parts of the 34.626 billion rand ABF portfolio across our province. This portfolio includes 10.088 billion rand in provincial and municipal infrastructure for health, education, water and sanitation projects, 490 million rand established portfolio in public-private partnerships supporting transport and environmental affairs, and 24.048 billion rand for catalytic ABF programs and flagship initiatives. Our provincial treasury will further continue our collaboration with the National Treasury and the World Bank to establish a credit guarantee vehicle aiming to mobilize private capital by de-risking critical projects in the energy, transport, and water sectors. Our Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning will explore a biodiversity credit scheme aiming to unlock new streams of alternative and blended financing by monetizing conservation outcomes and attracting private sector investment into nature-based and climate-resilient infrastructure. And the Provincial Treasury and the Department of Economic Development and Tourism will jointly undertake research to assess the impact of tourism from international visitors on our province and possible associated revenue sources. Speaker, to strengthen our evidence-led approach to violent crime, we will allocate 6.526 million rand over the MTEF to the Provincial Safety Coordination Centre, which will expand predictive analysis and support more proactive decision-making. We will also scale telehealth for chronic care, rolling out tools such as the single patient viewer, upgrading infrastructure, and strengthening data integration through the Patient Master Index. To push this further, we will allocate 224.201 million rand over the MTEF for integrated electronic health records, expanded automation and telehealth, patient identification, and targeted investment in innovation and clinical technologies. To support sustained good governance, we will expand our capacity building initiatives with municipalities to strengthen financial oversight and professionalization. The Department of Local Government receives 554.181 million rand to promote viable, sustainable, and developmental local governance, improve integrated planning, and deepen community participation. We will advance cost-effective service delivery models, support municipalities in reviewing public participation and ward committee policies, provide training for ward committees, and strengthen community engagement through civic education sessions. Speaker, our Department of Local Government will also be allocated 29.929 million rand over the MTIF to strengthen intergovernmental planning and budgeting. It will institutionalize integrated development planning as the central coordination framework and embed the joint district and metro approach to improve forums, alignment, and budgeting. In 2026-27, 34 provincial grants from 10 departments totaling 8.686 billion rand will support municipal infrastructure and capacity building. And the assignment of the library function will also now remove VAT from all future transfers. The Department of Local Government will further be allocated 363.3 million rand to monitor and support municipal infrastructure development, including planning, finance, asset management, maintenance backlogs, and capacity constraints. Supporting culture and people-centered delivery, we will deepen our Western Cape culture journey to strengthen leadership, embed values, and enhance people-centered service delivery. And supporting workplace development and capacity building, our Provincial Training Institute will receive an additional 41.134 million rand over the MTIF to support phase reconfiguration, including a new curriculum framework and supporting its infrastructure. We will strengthen future thinking and evidence-based decision-making by expanding integrating data systems, performance dashboards, evidence tools, and responsive data and AI governance to guide planning and budgeting. Together with the Department of the Premier and the Provincial Treasury, we will improve integration of financial and non-financial data through better monitoring, data warehousing, and business intelligence platforms. This will enable earlier risk detection and more responsive, transparent, and efficient budgeting. We will invest 112.236 million rand over the MTIF to strengthen supply chain and asset management practices. By upgrading our systems through the e-procurement platform, the supplier evidence bank, and the procurement planning toolkit, we improve real-time visibility, automate low-value transactions, and strengthen audit trails and value for money outcomes. Speaker, in order to build human resources capacity and efficiency within the Western Cape government's internal systems, the Corporate Service Centre housed in the Department of the Premier will receive 5.670 billion rand over the 2026 MTIF. This will fund core security, network infrastructure, and licensing requirements. And as we bring new capacity into the system, we must also say goodbye to dedicated public servants who have chosen to exit through the voluntary exit program. A total of 568 applications have been approved across departments, supported by 309.6 million rand in additional funding from National Treasury, and resulting in an estimated net saving of 367.7 million rand in 2026. We honor the contribution these officials have made. Many have served for decades and helped shape the Western Cape government into the best-run provincial administration in our country. Their departure will leave a real gap in institutional knowledge and technical expertise. We accept these exits with a deep appreciation for their service. Speaker, the viticulturalist does not measure success just by the size of the vine in the spring. He measures it by the quality of the harvest that endures. She knows that unchecked growth is wasteful, that neglected roots invite decline, and that a healthy vineyard demands judgment, patience, restraint, and care. That is the choice before any government with serious intentions. To spend without discipline is to weaken the vine. To cut without care is to wound the roots. We have chosen a better path. We have chosen to prune where waste has taken hold. We have chosen to protect what gives life. We have chosen to back the systems that allow this province to stand, to work, to heal, to learn, and to grow. Speaker, Johannes 15 vers 2 verklaar, elke loot aan my wat nie vrugte dra nie, sny hy af. Maar elkeen wat vrugte dra, snoei hy reg, sodat dit nog meer vrugte kan dra. When this House considers the budget table today, let it be clear what is being placed before it. This is a budget that backs our economy without abandoning the vulnerable and protects dignity without surrendering discipline. Ons sal nie moeg word nie. nie in die snoei nie, nie in die sorg nie, nie in die bou van 'n sterker, veiliger en meer waardige Weskaap nie. Speaker, this budget is a testament to the professionalism, dedication and excellence of every Western Cape government official. They are the very best this country has to offer. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to our Head of Treasury, Yolinda Gantana, along with our senior management team, Isaac Smith, Victor Sena, Annelies Pick, Sharon van Rede, Paul Pinaar, Michelle Nicholas, Ziad Majid, Malcolm Boyson, Stephen Kenyon, Isaac C., and Elizabeth Wen, and every member of your respective teams. Your discipline means the people of the Western Cape never have to settle for the bare minimum. They can rely on a government that delivers services with excellence, dignity, and care. I wish to thank the Premier, my cabinet colleagues, the Director General of our province, Dr. Harry Malila, all our heads of departments, and all of our Western Cape government officials for making sure every rand spent on behalf of the people of our province is done in a disciplined and caring manner. To my team in the Finance Ministry, Marshall Fredericks and Lenke Wins-Oosthuizen, thank you for your technical support and strategic guidance. To Xanthia Lawson, Sandra Francisco, Gaino Lucas, Irshan Davids, and Edwina Herman. Thank you for ensuring that seamless administration and operations make our office tick. Your collective efforts are the backbone of our work. To the National Minister of Finance, Minister Enoch Konongwana, and in absentia, the SARS Commissioner, Mr. Kieswetter. I want to thank you guys for supporting the people of the Western Cape. You and your teams are our partners in finance, and we look forward to our continued collaboration with your institutions. Aan my vriende en familie, dankie vir julle opofferings, die verstaan wanneer ek aandetes mis, en die naweke wat verlore gaan in werk. Dankie vir jul geduld en begrip, sodat ek die mense van ons provinsie kan dien. Speaker, vir oorweging en beraadslaging vandag voor die Weskaapse Provinsiale Parlement lê ek ter tafel die Weskaapse Begrotingsontwerp Wet 1/2026, die 2026 oorsig van provinsiale inkomste en uitgawes, die 2026 oorsig van provinsiale en munisipale infrastruktuurbeleggings, die 2026 beramings van provinsiale inkomste en uitgawes, die 2026 provinsiale staatskoerant munisipale toekennings en my 2026 begrotingsrede. Ek dank u.
Order. Order, members. Order. Order. Members, you'll have an opportunity to debate, interrogate, and make your contributions once the budget has been referred to the relevant standing committees. This is now not your opportunity to do so. Thank you very much to the Honourable Minister. The Secretary will read the bill a first time.
Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
In accordance with Rule 188, subsection 1, the introductory speech, the bill and papers laid upon the table will be referred to the relevant committees for consideration and report. The Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Introduction and first reading, Western Cape 20th Gambling and Racing Amendment Bill, B2 2026.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Finance, Minister Bartman.
Thank you so much, Speaker. The Western Cape Government today introduces the Western Cape 20th Gambling and Racing Amendment Bill 2026. The primary objective of this bill is to amend the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Act to provide for economic opportunity tax applicable for casinos. The tax will be payable by the holder of a casino operator license whose application in terms of Section 41, subsection 2 of the Principal Act relating to the relocation of a casino has been approved by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. The rationale behind this economic opportunity tax is to compensate for when a casino chooses to relocate. It gains an enhanced opportunity to generate generate gambling revenue, which was not reflected in its original bid fee. This tax, therefore, is an extension of the original bid fee and ensures that such additional economic benefits are fairly accounted for. By introducing this measure, we aim to promote fairness and equity within the casino industry, ensuring that all operators contribute proportionally to the opportunities afforded to them. And Speaker, I therefore table the Western Cape 20th Gambling and Racing Amendment Bill 2026 for consideration by this House. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. In accordance with Rule 188, subsection 1, the bill will be referred to the relevant committee for consideration and report after the Secretary has read the bill for the first time.
Western Cape 20th Gambling and Racing Amendment Bill.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, before we adjourn, I would like to remind the members that the Budget Committee will commence at 2 o'clock today, and that concludes the business for the day. Members, please be informed that the APP packs are being delivered to your offices as we speak. The Secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the sitting and the House is adjourned.